discussion today and hopefully keep it a bit lively. We'll probably try and get in enough so that we can get questions back from you as well. So just to start off, maybe, one of the questions as we all sat together and we were having a chat prior to the panel, we thought, was an important conversation to start with. Was to say that, when you are building a brand, one of the things that all of us sort of grapple with is if you have $100 to spend, where do you put your money? And between product versus reach versus advertising dollars, and how do you make the choices of where to put the money? So I'm just going to sort of begin with asking Lisa sort of her view on this point and sort of just start the proceeding from there.
Thank you. Okay, so yes, I have a lot of media experience from the UK, but the reason I'm here today was I actually started my own company called iBrands Beverages. I'm the only woman in the history of India to have started a spirits business from scratch. So today I'm here to tell you about my entrepreneurial journey on this and how tough it's been, but to give you some sort of experience from Priya's question, which was really, really relevant to me, was how do you spend your money when you don't have the money that the big boys have? Let's take Diageo or Pernod Ricard. I don't have the marketing dollars. So where do I spend the money? My first important point is do R&D. Ensure that you have researched your market, your target audience, and your product that you're going to launch in the market. For me, product is key. It's critical. I could not go after, sort of even place myself and be in this market for the last 9 years if I had not made a superior product in its segment. So what I went for was looking at the blend. I looked at the packaging. I ensured to see that, is my product better than the competition in its segment? So I did a lot of research, and I'm happy to say now that all my 4 brands that are in the 14 states that we've launched are all gold medal award-winning brands in terms of blend and packaging. Because we really put, thank you. We put a lot of effort into really establishing the product because we didn't have the budget. Now, if you don't have the money for extensive marketing, how am I to promote this product? So we really looked at word of mouth, social media. Social media for me was key to interact with my consumers, be it with Facebook, to talk to consumers. Also, my sales team, when they were going out and talking to their clients, talking about the fact that we are an international company with international quality products that were value for money. That was my objective. So we had to get the information out as sort of cost effectively as possible. We looked at things like gift packs and promotions, little things where you can target your consumer or your sales, your actual trade, so that you could actually get the increase in sales. So all these kind of like lower level, retail specific, on ground activity is what we did, and it kind of worked for us.
Just to add to that, for a brand like ours, what we look into is essentially the 4 Ps. We concentrate our monies on product, pricing, placement, and people. So we use a lot of our resources in producing a high-class quality product, because of which we provide a lifetime warranty on all our products, because we are so sure of the quality of the product that we are providing to the customer. We also do a lot of R&D on the pricing of the product, because we feel that the consumers must find value in the product that we are selling, so that they feel comfortable in buying a high quality product at the value at which we are selling. The third thing that we put our monies on is placement, so that we are strategically located in the best of malls and airports, so that the consumers consumers can easily walk into our stores and buy them. And lastly is the people. We put a lot of efforts in training our staff and motivating our employees so that they can provide customer experiences that we want to actually give to our customers. So this is what our brand does. And because of these 4, I think word of mouth automatically kicks in, because once the product reaches the customer, they automatically become our brand advocates.
Super. Anything you'd like to add? Priyanka.
A lot has been said already about product excellence and innovation. I think those are key drivers. But I think understanding the customer and doing the preliminary research is equally important before you draw out your route to market plan. That's one. Second, I think integrating all members of the value chain is also really important because consumer really is the end route, right? And the process for a company like ours, which is into rice processing, integrating back with farmers and doing seed development is extremely important. So it's the entire value chain that you integrate. I think that's really important, and I'd leave it at that.
No, sure. So I think a lot of the panel sort of feels that products really key, and I loved what she said on sort of building advocates for the brand.
Yeah.
So I think that's how all of us feel on the panel. So really getting into how we understand our customer really well. So if I had to ask you, saying large companies like Unilever would have incredible sort of resource at their access to get data, to meet consumers, for a lot of consumer insight mining. But if you're starting out as an entrepreneur, Lisa, I'm going to look at you and say, if you're starting out as an entrepreneur and you needed to sort of get to know your consumer, so what really did you do and how did you go about it?
Okay. This is a true story. In 2008, when I spent 2 years doing R&D on the product, I realized to myself that I don't have a huge conglomerate arm to do research and development, consumer-focused taste testing tests. I didn't have that. I didn't have the money. So what I did was I went out by myself with a hoodie in a car to the liquor vends myself in the night to actually see what the response was in India. I wanted to know first-hand knowledge, why people are actually drinking what they're drinking, what is the thoughts behind it. When my brand launched, Granton Whiskey, I actually went up to the customers myself personally and asked them, why are you not buying my product? Why are you buying my competitor? And they said, "Isme Scotch nahi dala." So in English they said, "There's no Scotch in this." But actually, I'd put a little bit extra in my segment, but because it was so smooth, they thought that there was no Scotch. So suddenly I realized to myself, I'm trying to make a better product here, but the customer base is not understanding that. So I had to retract the product, which is, if you're a big, huge conglomerate, you can't do, but a smaller company like myself, I could tweak the product. So I took it back. I tweaked the product, Granton Whiskey, and then we put it out there again with a bit more of a pungent taste, and it was a super hit, and we won Best Blend, So, that's the story. It's really hands-on. I think for me as an entrepreneur without any money, when you're starting, you've got to be really in there, hands dirty, go out there, go get them.
Super. You want to add, Shivan?
We at Damilano, we really believe in listening to the customer. So since the very beginning, we have listened to the customer and diversified our portfolio in terms of products. Whatever the customers demanded, we've given it to the customer. So I feel that has really rewarded us. What happens is, I feel, for a brand is that they must define their core values. And as long as the customer feedback is not interfering in the core values of the brand, it's very important for the brand to listen to the customer and give them what they actually want. And customers actually in turn reward you for giving them the product that they really want. That's what we do.
No, that's really super. And I think just to add to what the panelists have said, sort of in a large organization like Unilever, I think one of the things we do is just get everyone to get what we call a consumer license. So you can't operate in the company till you have a consumer license, which really means there's a number of hours you have to be with consumers to have rights to make decisions in the organization. So it's just as simple as that, saying everyone in the organization needs a consumer license to operate. Otherwise, you can't operate in the organization, you can't take decisions because you don't have the right to take decisions if you don't know your consumers. So, because we're a large organization with 18,000 people, we obviously have to have more processes that do this. And, that's one of the things that we do. So one of the things that we all spoke about, and maybe it'd be great to have a conversation around that, is, in the world in which we are, is it more important when you're developing a brand to be 100% right and accurate or perfect? Or is it more important to be 100% first and get into the market, because the market's really moving and, with speed and change is really rapid in the market in which we are today. So just going to look at you, Priyanka, and ask you to talk about this.
So Priya, we operate in a commoditized marketplace, which is rice, and one would say rice is just rice. But I think we've built our business model being unique and being different. So unless, you invest your resources in product excellence, and there is clearly a USP, there's no point going in a very, very crowded marketplace. Second, from a resources standpoint today, cost of capital is on average 10%. Resources are scarce, they're expensive, and brand recalls are not looked upon very favorably. I think, an entrepreneur's journey is evolutionary, right? So when you start out, the consumers are a lot more forgiving. But I think as you become a very evolved, developed brand, consumers don't see brand recalls very positively, right? So you really cannot do trial and error at consumers' time and cost. So for us, we've built a business model actually understanding whether the brand, even an extension, has a marketplace. That's one. Second, what is the niche that it's servicing? Yes, from a Puritan's perspective, brands are long-term, but I think increasingly now, food CPG companies are launching brands which are tactical, right? Short-term, to address either the market timing or the customer, and through an education process, you sort of take the consumer up the value chain. Obviously, I think also what room you play, what segment of the market you play also makes a lot of difference. So if you're playing at the premium end of the market, then I think because understandably the size of the market is a lot smaller, understanding of the customer is a lot better. And as you become broad-based, right, you service the real masses, there you get some 21 different consumer types, which I'm sure you well versed with. And there I think that customization really becomes a challenge. So it really depends also on what part of the market you're playing. So if for our business, I would say definitely having a perfect product and then going to the market, doing your focus group, doing data analytics, simulation, modeling, test marketing, you need to do all of that, because if you're doing commodities or if you're doing food brands, you're really tight on budgets.
A diverse point of view from you, Lisa,
Yes.
probably looking on this side.
No, actually speaking, that is the correct way of doing it. I mean, if you have the funding, you can do the research, you have your R&D teams in play and your consumer focus groups, then super. But as an entrepreneur, again, with a very limited budget when I started, I didn't have that at my disposal. So I went straight out and launched the product. I launched it in a test market. So we launched it in Uttarakhand as a test market to see if it worked. We had our sales team go out. And this was key, actually, for me, was actually seeing the sales team come back with feedback. So the feedback exactly wasn't very positive to begin with, I'm going to be very honest. So I thought, okay, how do we adapt? How do we quickly change? If I'd left the product in the market, it would have been a disaster, because I said the blend wasn't right. So by quickly changing the product, adapting the packaging, we could replace it very quickly in the market, and it worked. Suddenly, for instance, in Haryana, I was beating some of the biggest brands that were out there. My market share was growing. I was very excited because of the fact that I'd had a constant eye on the ball on my product. I would have loved to have launched with hundreds of consumer panels, but honestly, I did not have the budget to start. So I had to be, it's always for an entrepreneur, it's hands-on. Keep adapting, keep checking, keep speaking to your customer, keep speaking to your sales team without your sales team feedback, and not dismissing it, not being, you think you've got a wonderful product when you launch it, but no, you have to get the feedback. And if it's not right, as horrible as it may be, you may have to quickly adapt, change it, and go out again with a better, more refined product, even if it is costly. In fact, all my investors were freaking out saying, why are you doing this, Lisa? It's a beautiful product. I said, no. If it's not the best, I can't excel in this market. I just can't. So we even came up with a new canister packaging, which won Best Packaging Award. So that's how we've done it. We've had to constantly keep adapting.
No, and I think, sort of just to add to what Lisa's saying, I think what we're realizing even in an organization like Unilever is actually we have an incredible advantage to be able to experiment without betting the bank. because you're large enough to do lots of little experiments and keep trying and learning, and there is no substitute almost for learning with consumers.
Correct. Yeah.
Because you can do all the research and you can do all of that, but there's no substitute for learning in the market.
It's very difficult to know what brand is going to work, right? Unless you put it out there. You have to have the guts. Do it. See it. If you're sure and you've done your R&D, you've done your research and you're sure, then you have to put it out. As you said, if you're otherwise someone else will.
Absolutely.
We at Damilano, actually, we're constantly telling our sales staff to make focus groups on every single day basis.
Wonderful.
We want to know feedback from the customer every single day. And also what we do focus on is we never close a sale. We open a new relationship.
Nice.
So whenever we make a sale, we make it a point that we take continuous customer feedback and inculcate that in our products. And now with influencer marketing, etc., we see a lot of people really it's easier for the customers to communicate with with brands like us, and it's easy for brands like us to really take their opinions and use it in our strategies, in our product, etc.
And maybe that brings me to another sort of thought, is that with the consumers becoming, especially in India with our demographic, if we had to reach out to our millennial consumers and our new consumers and the new consumer generation, I think the question is it a completely different sort of customer orientation you need, and sort of your take on, if you're talking to millennials, how do you need to do it quite differently? And Shivani, I'm going to look at you since you're the most relevant brand.
I think the most important influence factor on a millennial customer is the way a brand communicates its story, its ideas and opinions to the customers. So basically the point here is about content creation. And content creation is basically what is the core of the brand, what the brand really believes in. So a brand needs to really define that first and then create content, I feel, in which the customers are engaged with the brand. So you have to create content which actually customers are willing to listen to and then give their opinions on. They need to be engaged with the brand. So I feel, just to give you an example, when we really started out with the brand, a customer used to come into our store and spend hours looking at the merchandise, deciding what to buy. Today, when a customer walks into a store, he almost knows what he wants to buy, because a brand has already communicated with the customer. He's already made up his mind. So it's very important to keep communicating with the customer with whatever mediums you can, and build a relationship with him before he's even entered your store. That's what we do. Through social media, we create stories, and we define the core of the brand, and we try to tell the customers, like supposing we believe a lot in the quality and the pricing. So the customer already knows that the value that he's paying for is it's timeless. Our products are timeless. So the customer's already very aware. This is what I feel, yeah.
I think that's sort of an important point, and something that the audience, members of the audience have raised as well, is how do you create an enduring brand? So it's all really great to create this lovely brand, and it's beautifully made, but consumer preferences change. And if you want an enduring brand over time, which sort of lasts through changing preferences, changing segments of consumers. So Priyanka, I'm looking at you and saying, you're a brand that's been in the market for some time now, and brand endures. So what have you done to keep the brand?
I think so. One of the recurring themes of the panel has been product excellence. So in a category like ours, rice, how do you ensure product excellence, right? And we've done that by developing newer varieties which integrate actually. So for us, consumers are really two ends of the value chain, the farmer and the eventual consumer, right? And unless you are servicing both ends, you really cannot have product excellence. So we started out with farmers, and we understood that there was actually a disconnect with regard to the varieties they were growing, the farmer income. There was a yield and a productivity aspect. With consumers, the attributes had to be more refined. They wanted a physically more stronger product. And so you develop products which basically marries the two, right? And you bring them closer. So very shortly, we were talking earlier, the question then is, how do you bring two value members closer? So I think you create contests, etc., where consumers can go back to the farmers, go to the farms and see how the products actually cultivated. And from a farmer perspective, I think, if you give farmer the access to the consumer, there's a great sense of ownership. So we've done that. We are going to be launching apps soon where where consumers can read the barcode and know through a traceability system who's actually grown the product. So I think that's one. Second, while not always possible, I think being unique in the marketplace has a great premium. It gives you a first mover advantage, provided you're able to capitalize on that advantage and be constantly ahead of the curve, right? Because that first mover advantage through competition, going up the efficiency curve, that advantage can get eroded. But I think that's where leadership comes into play. So, some of the developments that we've taken is we've recently launched in India GABA rice, which is for the first time that we've launched it. GABA is a neurotransmitter. It's a natural neurotransmitter, helps you sleep better, has a calming effect, activates your brain cells. We've done Weight Watchers. So I think also creating products innovatively and incrementally is very important also to create enduring brands. And third is, I think, positioning, right? And as consumers' position changes, the value proposition also changes. So I think one needs to do a dipstick to evaluate whether the brand proposition is still relevant today. And if it's not, then you need to change your messaging very quickly.
No, I think that's absolutely right. And we are very fortunate, Priyanka, because we have, I work in an organization which probably most of your parents grew up with our brands, you're growing up with our brands, and they continue to be amongst the largest brands in the country, whether it's a Lifebuoy or a Surf or any of our brands. And I think our learning is that, don't be obsessed with your product solution, be obsessed with the consumer problem and the problem that you're seeking to solve. So if your consumer problem that you're seeking to solve is getting people to wash their hands, it could be with a soap, it could be with a liquid, it could be with wipes, it could be with something else. But really there's a problem that the consumer is using your brand for, and that's she needs to get the children's hands clean, her hands clean. So just being obsessed with the consumer problem and not with the particular product solution, which is probably generations ago was relevant, and what we used to wash our hands 100 years ago was different from what we probably want to use as consumers who've changed, evolved today. We might want products on the go. So I'm saying just staying with what's the real consumer problem that you're seeking to address and sort of contemporize both the brand and the solution for changing needs is probably sort of what our learnings are over time as well.
And just to add to that, Priya, I think the way consumers now engage with the brand is also very different, right? So in a category like ours, earlier the word of mouth really mattered, right? What the grandmother's consuming is, it's what's going to get passed down to the mother, it's going to pass down to the young bride, right? And increasingly now consumers go and research the product, right? So the word of mouth is still relevant, but it's not the primary driver, right? So how do you then maintain trust, or how do you build trust then in the product? And I think, consumers now look at external factors, such as, how are other people experiencing the brand? How are the peers experiencing the brand? What are they talking about? What's written in the social media? And I think the most important from our perspective is a layer of responsibility now that's been added on, because consumers want to know who's the company that's manufacturing the brand. What impact are they making in the societies, in the communities? What are employees talking about it? So you can say, I'm the world's greatest brand, but if you don't treat your employees well, that is going to get reverberated outside. So how what you espouse outside as a brand which represents you, you need to live it. So the matrix on transparency and performance delivery, I think, is the greatest ever. And we were talking earlier from an Indian context. I think customer service expectation is by far the highest. And I can tell you about my category. When a Facebook complaint comes, it has to be answered within 24 hours. That replacement has to happen within 3 days, or you'll have very, very irate customers, right? So with such high matrix on transparency, I think brands need to operate on living basically the pitch that they're selling.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It brings me sort of to a thought in the new world in which we are What's your take on how do you build a brand in the context of e-commerce? And sort of this opportunity that now has come about where you can actually get to consumers and break a lot of the otherwise value chains that used to be in the hands of sort of large organizations. So any thoughts? I'm not going to look at you since you're not allowed to sell on e-commerce, but of course you could have a view, but anything you think on that, Priyanka?
So I think, e-commerce is a fantastic opportunity for young entrepreneurs because really there is no cost to trial and error, right? So if you go to a conventional retail, visibility is limited, you have to spend listing cost, visibility cost, year-end discounts, it's an expensive proposition. With e-commerce, your room to play and experiment is significantly greater. Having said that, it's also a category-specific playroom, if I may to say. So for rice, is e-commerce a current big opportunity? From an Indian context, probably not, because we still go to the kirana shop and buy our rice, atta, oil, whatever. But the health food, which is where we've just launched ourselves in, is a great room to play, right? So we've launched quinoa, knowing that it's an evolved product in the US, and in India the market is nascent, but we believe that the Indian consumer is really projecting very quickly towards the health segment, given lifestyle diseases are on the rise, and that's a category that we can build. And we found that the most efficient route to the customer, given the small base, the small current base, is e-commerce. And I think Amazon, Flipkart, they're fantastic platforms along with social media, right? So you can effectively now sell even through Facebook and Instagram, and they offer great opportunities for trying new categories, developing them, because those are truly B2C categories, right? I think that's where the maximum opportunity is.
For us, I think e-commerce is a great platform to get to places where we are actually not present. The Indian customer is not completely ready, I would say, for an affordable luxury brand as well, but it's slowly getting there. So I would say 10 years from now, I think e-commerce, even for a product like us, in a category like us, is going to take the lead. As of now, retail is the king, but soon I feel it's going to shift. Because the customers still want the look and feel. I mean, they prefer
the physicality.
It. Yeah.
So I think maybe before we get to letting the audience ask us questions, maybe one last thing is for all your companies and for all our companies that we are part of, how do you ensure that the values that all of us cherish about our brand and the customer orientation, you're able to pass down to every employee in the company? And Shivani, since you run a brand that has retail facing and you own the stores, how do you do it?
For us, actually, it's very important that the marketing resource, which is closest to our customers, that is our sales staff, they should be highly motivated. I feel a highly motivated sales staff equals to a happy employee, which equals to a happy customer, which gives us a great loyal customer base. And how we do that is by training our employees. We concentrate a lot on training. So as soon as we hire someone, we like to hire people firstly who have a passion, who have a fire in them. So once we hire these people, we train them. We take a lot of efforts in training them, giving them product training them on how they deal with customers, because we want the customers to get not only the correct product, but the right experience. So we do concentrate a lot on training. Also, it's very important to define the roles and responsibilities of these employees. Once they feel they're responsible for retaining customers, for giving the best customer service, I feel they automatically perform better, and obviously appreciating their work. And as you had mentioned earlier, empowering the employees, right? Once the employee feels empowered, he automatically performs better. And all this leads to a better customer experience, which then leads to a loyal customer base.
I agree with that, actually, Shivani. I think knowledge is power. So basically, if you go out to your sales staff and you tell them all about your products, gear them up and get them as excited as you are about your own products, they're going to reflect that outside. And so really, it's all about ensuring that your whole entire group, everybody, not just the salesperson, everybody in your company, right from the secretary, from the minute they walk into that office, they're eating, breathing your company, they're loving it, they're loving your values. For me, it was making international quality products that were value for money. I wanted that because I felt that, just to give you an experience, when I came to India in 2003, I couldn't get a good packet of biscuits. I'm from London, I came from London, I wanted an international packet of biscuits, and I struggled to find a good quality of biscuits that wasn't soggy, this is in Yelahanka, or that basically wasn't overly priced. And I thought, why can't India have international quality products that are really good value for money? So with that mindset, we started iBrands, and I put that into every person that worked with me. They were as enthusiastic. They felt, why can't we have such great products? Equally, working with women was another factor I just wanted to bring in, was that I found that in India, it was very difficult to work in this industry because it's male-dominated. So you are instantly facing problems because nobody wanted to speak to a woman. So what I did was I hired a huge amount of women in my company. So my head of finance, my head of marketing, they're all women, because I empowered them as well to go out there and speak on our behalf, because I don't see why it should just be a male-dominated industry. I don't see why. The sales team, of course, when you're going into liquor events, where that's applicable, I would hire a male just to be on the safe side. But the back end, women were working in my team. I wanted them to experience everything about what I was feeling, which was about the fact that there should be more, women empowerment in this country, that we should be able to have good quality products. Why can't we have them? Why can't they be value for money? So everybody in my organization was enthused, and that's why things then, move forward.
Super. So we're going to just sort of now use this moment to hand over to the audience for already a question at the back. So if you can address it to one person if you like in the panel, or to the panel in general, then one of us just responds.
So basically when the brand is profitable, right, there's a good chance that there will be fakes.
There would be fakes, yes.
So how do you face, how do you manage that? What steps do you take?
Yeah, okay. So maybe I'll start with responding, since this is a huge issue for us at Unilever. There is, in general, in any rural market, an incredible number of fakes that exist. And I think there are two ways. One is, of course, simply telling consumers about, how to look out for brands and making brand identities very, very clear. So I think the clearer brand identities are, the easier it is for consumer visually to pick up one brand versus the other. And of course the other is policy and ensuring litigation and policy to ensure that we need a stronger process in this country to ensure that brands with the right IPR actually are the ones who sell in the country. So we use both, sort of educating consumers about how to recognize a brand and what a brand looks like visually, especially because a lot of our consumers, since we talk to the length and breadth of this country, are illiterate, and therefore really visually recognizing a brand for what it is. And the other, of course, on the other side is using litigation and using, really encouraging and lobbying for better litigation and process and policy.
Litigation around this.
No, I think actually if, we find that we're now much more successful than earlier. It's an endless story, so not for a second am I saying that you're not going to find Unilever fake products in the country which aren't Unilever products, but I think we are more successful than ever before, because I think there is far more interest in, even consumer interest in having products which are genuine. So I think that's the biggest change for me.
So
anyone else?
Yeah. So Priya, I just wanted to add to that. So how we've addressed counterfeiting, because that's also a concern, is putting anti-counterfeit measures on the bag, and anti-counterfeit measures on the bag. So hologram, something that is truly unique, which can't be duplicated very easily by a low-end packaging manufacturer. That's one. And second is product experience. I want to give you an example. An international experience that happened in Kuwait. So Kuwait is a relatively large and a dominant market for India Gate, and there are local wholesalers there that bring in product which is duplicate. And this case was actually brought to the head of sales of the MENA region, when the consumer actually actually wrote in to a complaints department saying that, you have fake product in Kuwait. And we're like, well, how do you know? They're like, well, I cooked the rice and this is not India Gate Classic, because my experience with the product is so consistent that if I find something very inferior, then I know for a moment. So I think, that I think is clearly an ideal state for a brand, wherein the consumer is able to identify, tell the manufacturer, so we can take a litigative, preventive measure. But I think, that is where the connect with the consumer is also very important, right? And it's, again, very category specific, because ours is a food brand and there is an experience that's connected with it. And I'm sure you can say that with even non-food brands as well. So that's how we do it. But she's absolutely right. Litigation is, but I'll tell you, globally fighting IPR issues, India is often mentioned as not very IPR friendly, but I can tell you this today, because I'm fighting cases in 22 countries. India is the most efficient when it comes to getting injunctions, IPR reliefs, passing off reliefs. We've really come a long way.
Please. Just going randomly will certainly try to get everyone.
Hi, my name is Akshya and I own a brand called Silpkarman. Silpkarman is a Sanskrit word which means handicraft. So initially I've been exporting bamboo handicraft products from India, and this year we have launched our brand into the retail market. Now we are present online via our web store, and we're doing exhibitions after exhibitions. Like now, right, you people set quality products at affordable prices. So I have the product, I have the artisan team, amazing network, designers, dedicated design team, but I still struggle to find my customer. Like sometimes I get responses. We do dining mats. Now these dining mats, which are made out of bamboo, you cannot wash them in the washing machine, right? But they can be easily cleaned. It's not that they cannot be cleaned, but they cannot be washed in the washing machine. So I get responses from the customer like, we have a habit of putting everything into the washing machine, so we cannot use it. So I know they are not my customer type. I know what my customer type is, but I'm still struggling really hard to reach out to my core customer. So what can I really do about it?
Can I answer that? Okay. So basically for me, with limited funding, I take it?
Yes.
Correct, okay. So you have to get educating your consumer. So education's key here. So how do you do it? For me, I felt PR was a fantastic strategy. I hired a very young girl to start off with before we've got agencies now, but a small young girl who started off just getting little bits of information, educating people about your product, into the local newspapers, getting clippings, and with that, suddenly, we started seeing the kind of increase in sales. People were starting to go, what is this product? Oh, let me try it. And then the word of mouth started. So just small little things where you can try and increase, the knowledge, and educate. That absolutely right. Like you said, for your product, you've got to tell people that actually my product's more superior because you can use it without, like you're saying, with your USP. So you just need to try and get that information out there as fast as possible to as many people. And I felt PR, because I didn't have the above the line budgets, etc. So you're looking at getting it out as quickly as you can.
So just to add to that, I feel you need to define the core of your brand, right? So you need to understand what the real value behind your brand is. Now supposing, for example, you said the washing machine thing. Yeah. Now, it's for you to decide whether you want to get into that product or not. But the customer's clearly telling you that she wants a product which she can use in her washing machine. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if that conflicts with the core of your brand. But if it doesn't, then that clearly shows a demand in the market for a product that can be used in the washing machine.
No, but the point is, I'm clear about the core values, because we have to retain the artisans' core products. We cannot push them to do something which is mechanical. It has to be done by hand, otherwise it's not handmade, right? But the customer, we still not able, and exactly for the marketing point of view, I'm still not able to decide how much to spend on marketing, because we did spend on marketing and it didn't get us the kind of revenue we were looking at.
What marketing did you do?
We do digital marketing, because since we still have only a online web store and we are only present through exhibitions.
I think you should have some partnerships.
Good idea.
That's absolutely
Very
a great
good
idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a great idea. Sorry.
Yeah,
To you.
I think it's been, yeah.
My name is Shay. I'm from Nigeria. we have a juice, a natural beverage brand. And our initiative going into the brand was to create more fun and accessible healthy options. And the packaging and the story behind our brand has kind of pulled us really high market, just premium. And the majority of our sales are through these modern retail channels, which account for a tiny sliver of the commerce in Nigeria. So we're trying to be more accessible to the masses. So we rebranded and lowered our price. And our previous customers are just screaming at us.
Yeah.
You know, we kept the same quality, just changed the packaging so that we can reduce our price. We've been pushing back against doing multiple brands because we don't think we have the capacity to handle that. I'm just curious how you would think about it. The market is trying to pull us a little bit too high end, but we want to actually serve a broader market at a lower price.
Sure, please go.
So I think, who do you really eventually want to cater to? The premium end or the mid-market? I think you need to make that distinction, because typically the ideal state for a brand is to move up the value chain, right? You want to move up in value, not go down in value. Having said that, I operate in a category that's really vertically, you service across, right? And the way we address that is through brand extensions. So we have India Classic, which is really the most super premium rice, aged for 2 years, and then we have a premium and a Tebar and a Dubar, and we go down. Because India, all under the same branding. Also, India understands brand extensions. So I really don't have enough information from a Nigeria perspective whether the consumers understand brand extensions, because there are certain markets which are Puritan, right? Where brand extensions don't work. India is a price point market, right? Where price really matters. It's the ultimate selling tool, and I think everything else is ancillary. So I would say that, way you can address that is brand extension. Also, from what I could understand, you're a B2B business. You're not necessarily a B2C business.
No, it's a B2C business.
Is it?
We market to customers, but we sell on the retail.
Consumers. It's a consumer
Okay,
business.
it is a consumer business. Yeah, so I would do that, or you could, you could make your brand sort of the house of and then have other brands, right? So you sort of follow the Nestle philosophy, which is of umbrella branding, and then you have individual brands, but then, you'd have to spend significantly getting the brand awareness out, etc. Also depends on the size of the category, how large is your category. I think that would also make your, you'd make your marketing and your selling decisions based on what the size of the current category is.
Great insights, ladies. Just wanted to check, in many brands, your first customer is a dealer or distributor. So how do you do branding for your dealer distributor? How much do you spend? What kind of leverage do you give them? Because sometimes you're completely vulnerable, isn't it?
Should I answer that?
No, any.
We have 484 distributors across India. And is the distributor, I think the first driver for us is the distributor purely dependent on you for its revenue, or are they doing a basket of products? Now the route that we've taken is that I would say 90% of our distributors purely or primarily rely on sale of our products. Because that is the case, then it is upon us, it is imperative upon us that we ensure that the marketing communication is distributor-led. Second is, I would say, margin consistency. I think margin consistency is extremely important in a business like ours because it's commodity, right? So it's commodity. So the margin business, the margin has to be consistent, which I think is extremely important. And the third is assisting them in sales, because at the end of the day, everybody's on a target, they're on a target incentive. So if you can enable either through an ancillary sales force or a reward mechanism or a coupon or anything, if you enable sales, then you'll have greater buy-in from distributors. I think from an Indian context, we've tried various schemes, and I think from a distributor to retailer, because ultimately the customer of a distributor is the retailer, right? Any sort of loyalty mechanism pays forward tremendously, because you're able to capture your shelf space on the retail outlet, and second, there's sort of a trust and a relationship that develops. So we run actually loyalty programs all the time. For our category, that has worked really well.
I think just to add to what Priyanka is saying, I think it's also about remembering that the distributor is an entrepreneur, yeah, and that they're in it to create business and really treating them with that equality of a partnership, and not as someone you're selling to, but really saying that it's their business. If their business grows, you grow. Yeah, and I think the minute that's the relationship, and the relationship isn't one where you're expecting, you're just pushing down things to a distributor, because they're incredible entrepreneurs in their own right, running their businesses, and it's a distribution business that they run. So I think the partnerships that you can create, I mean, we are fortunate to have people who've been partners with us for 50 years, 60 years, and they stay with the organization because they feel part of the organization. And it's not because, they're just somebody whom we're selling stock to. And therefore there is joint planning, and there is, a relationship which goes well beyond, just being, because they're entrepreneurs who need to make a living, who need to, have a great business, who need to grow their business. And really, are they, are you working with them to together grow business, is the way I would look at it. Sorry, just so that we can answer more questions, I'm going to request the panel to keep it a bit short in their answers. And also so that we can, because there are loads of hands up, and that's great. Just going to go to the back if I can, please. So the gentleman with the glasses.
I'm Dheeraj Jain. I run a venture capital early stage fund out of London and Gurgaon, and we're backing female hygiene early stage innovation, the product. And what we're seeing is the social middle class influencer have such a massive impact on purchase decision. And we're just wondering, what is the future of celebrity endorsement, given the influencer are doing all of their job, they're not expensive, we give them the product for sampling, they like it, if they really like it, they actually come out on Instagram and actually talk about it. And they're not 1 or 2 or 3, we've done like 5,000 of these. And we thought there's no need for celebrity endorsement going future. So I just want to know your views on that. Second part, my friend wanted to ask, the digital has become so impactful and so big, and obviously it's cheap as well to go digital and market. What is the future of TV going forward?
Okay,
two different questions here.
So maybe I'll start with answering the first, since I think the point is this on celebrities, it depends on how you use them. Yeah, I don't think I want to give you like a one-size-fits-all answer for this sort of question, Dheeraj. I would say it depends on how you use the celebrity. And you can use celebrities as their celebrity voice. You can use them for the fact that there's a cause that they feel very passionate for. You can use celebrities as communication vehicles. You can use them as, so there are various ways in which you can use celebrities. So I would say it works depending on how the celebrity is used. Can you do branding without celebrities and have marketing? Of course you can. I'm saying, and that's the fun of the world in which we are in now, like you're saying, that there are many, but I would call even these mini bloggers and endorsers celebrities in their own rights.
Right.
They're just different kinds of...
all our customers are celebrities.
So I would just say there are different kinds of celebrities in the world today, not just the ones whom we identify as stars and, the cricket and the film stars and all of them who we think are celebrities in this country, and they are. But there are different kinds of celebrities emerging. I'm saying, a person who's a YouTube celebrity is a celebrity in their own right today, with millions of followers as well.
Correct.
So I would say to you that maybe what celebrities are is changing, and maybe that's a part of the process we're going through.
Can I just say one thing on that? In the liquor industry, it's full of your Shah Rukh Khans, your big cricketers, etc. How do you compete? Impossible. I don't have the budgets to take a Shah Rukh Khan right now. So
maybe later.
Yeah, maybe later, for sure. But so what I feel is that you don't necessarily need the celebrity endorsement. If your product, like we harped on about, if you've got your product...
Can you shut the door, please?
If your product is better than the competition and you believe in your product and you can promote it, you don't necessarily need a celebrity. We overtook some of the market shares of some very big brands by not having celebrities. I mean, it's really about how you go down. And again, to your point on TV as well, I feel that I mean, if you have the big budgets and you can do TV advertising, all well and great, because it's a fantastic medium to get the product out there. But now there's so many options available to you, right from, you know, your social media to your direct marketing to retail advertising, etc. There's so many things that you can do as well to complement your campaign, depending on what level size you are. I'm talking from my perspective, it's very expensive. So we've looked at all the other options as well below the line to complement and really take the brand forward.
Yeah, just to add to what Lisa is saying, maybe I think the value lies in reaching consumers and communicating to them. And depending on where your consumer is, that's where you go, right? So if they happen to be on television, which is the truth of the mass consumers in our country today, that's where we will communicate.
Yeah.
But if that changes and consumers can be now found in different places, I think let's go where the consumers are. So fish where the fish are.
Correct.
And that's simply it for me. Yes, she's been waiting to ask a question. Yes, you.
Hi, my name is Tamanna and I'm the founder of Baby Destination. It's an online community for expecting and new mothers, which enables personalized content and product discovery. And of course, needless to say, I started this because I became a mom. So I left the corporate world and started doing this.
Lovely.
But this is a very interesting conversation for me, and my question is more around digital marketing to create the brand recall. Because our growth has been purely organic. So in the last 10 months or so, we reach out to over 3 million moms, all organically, through our website and various social media channels. And we work with a lot of brands, both online and offline. So when you were talking about content and stories, that's how we've grown, right? Now, one thing is tracking, right? So if it is a brand that's online, the entire impact of the digital marketing that we're doing through content is very easy to track because the funnel is easier, right? From the reach to the conversion to the, like the sale.
Yep.
When it's offline, like you mentioned, that now when a consumer enters the store, they already know what they want. How are you able to measure that? Because I'm from a data background. I was a portfolio manager before, so like until we don't have data, like how do we measure the impact for the brand? Like, that's my question, like digital to like an offline sale.
Shivani, do you want to answer?
I would say, see, till today, even for a brand like us, we work on both qualitative and quantitative data. So we are forever working on all sorts of data. So every day we have lakhs of customers walk into our store. We take their data, we analyze that. As well as we are personally talking to customers, like our sales staff is personally talking to customers. There's no way to exactly evaluate what's coming through. It's like advertising, right? When you advertise on TV and when you advertise in magazines, can you actually ever record what is the sales that has come through that ad? You cannot. It's just about data collection and trying to understand your consumer. That's what I feel. And we at Da Milano, we're forever working with data, trying to understand a consumer, which is the consumer that's walking into us, whether it's a male, whether it's a female, what's the age, and all this is through data, right? And data is collected in millions of ways. It's through digital, it's through your sales staff, it's through whatever way you can get data, because today data is the most prized possession of a brand, right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I think there's a very famous quote, just to tell you, that says that, you know, 50% of the advertising dollars we spend, we know are wasted. We just wish we knew which 50% it is. So I think it's a bit like that. Yes, please, gentleman at the back.
So my question is to anybody on the panel. So one of the big issues for marketing is to determine the price point. At what price do you need to sell? And in business schools, you're taught that you need to have the demand curve of P to Q and you need to figure out how the price varies with quantity. And we are taught a lot of these fancy concepts like choice-based, conjoined, and all that good stuff. In reality, however, is that what you guys use, or it is just based on what XYZ is selling and therefore you price your point and then you discover whether you're selling more or right, and it's more of a gut feel? Because more often than not, I see people shooting from the hip. So I really don't know whether these tools have any relevance in marketing or they are just overrated concepts.
Do you want to take that?
No? Yeah, I can. So firstly, I would say the starting point must be to know which consumer you're targeting. I think that's, for me, the beginning of this conversation of pricing, is what consumer are you targeting? Because, you know, you could be pricing for the premium end consumer, or you could be pricing, and what category you're pricing in, I would argue. Because if it's an everyday use commodity, consumers tend to be very, very price sensitive. If it is an infrequently used stature category, like a bag, like Shivani sells, I think pricing strategies there would be very different. So if your question is
I think
that
for our brand it's aspirational.
absolutely.
So whatever aspiration we can generate is the amount of profit we can make.
So I think your question that you asked on are pricing models relevant, I think they are. Yeah, I think they're even more relevant today than before, because actually there's so much incredible data out there that you can use to do pricing, sort of analysis or to analyze where to price. So we use a lot of it to really build where we want to price. And of course, because many of our products are everyday use, frequently bought, repurchased products, price plays a key role in determining success. But it is a little bit about what category and what kind of brand, what kind of consumer you're targeting as well. Because this country is incredibly diverse, right? From the bottom of the pyramid right to the richest of the rich. We have all of them in our country. So it really depends on who you're targeting in this country as well. But I don't think that they've become irrelevant. I think they've morphed and emerged, and actually I think we're going to see a lot more artificial intelligence kind of models emerge on how to price as well, not just sort of standard models of pricing. So are pricing models relevant? Yes. Are the models in the way we were just drawing curves? Maybe not. Yeah, so I think models of pricing are going to become far more mathematical and data intense than they used to be.
Yeah, and I think pricing, while product values and product launches can be codified before you launch, I think price is an evolutionary journey, right? Because there are internal, your cost of goods aspect, and then there's the external competition. I think also, the consumer elasticity is variable, right? It varies over time. It either shrinks or expands. And I mean, the ideal state is for it to be expand, that you become so relevant in the customer's life that you can charge anything. From our perspective, I think just adding to what Priya said, we do data modeling and pricing models. But I think there is that constant experimentation on testing the consumer's propensity to pay. So I can give you an international, very large and risky experiment that we did. That our competition was doing crazy promotion, and that one year we didn't do any promotion, just to see whether the sales would come down or not. It was a smaller market, so I think we could take the chance, and I think to our good fortunes, I would say, in hindsight, that sales actually grew. So I think a lot of times brands are very defensive and they are constantly underpricing themselves. And because of competitive pressures, I think, brand owners need to have greater trust on the customers.
Maybe a last couple of questions, please, because we have some time. Okay, super.
This is a follow-up to what Dheeraj just asked about influencers. So just those of you who've run influencer campaigns, what are some of the things that have worked and what's not worked? Because one thing is, in other geographies like US and China, it's already becoming a major spend for brands. So what would you like to see more in India?
So I think it depends on the way, again, the relevance of the influencers you're using. So I think let's talk about, she was talking about a category of baby products or products. I mean, the thing is that who are you going to trust? And if you find the right influencers to a new mother, it's going to be very relevant if those influencers include doctors, pediatricians, people, other mothers, mommy bloggers. They're going to be very relevant. So when we've done things where we find the right influencers, we've defined it well, I think it's very, very successful. It is also true that influencers, let's take a cooking product, and a product like, we sell a bunch of Knorr products and which you add into your products or ready to make soups and various things. Now, if chefs are great influencers, if they were starting to be influencers, so we've used them very successfully when we've identified the right influencers. I think when the simple thing about influencers is never wrong, it's just the wrong influencer probably that we've identified. So I would say that you get it wrong sometimes, and you probably don't go to the right people, you've not identified them well. Or maybe the marketing campaign strategy on media, reaching consumers is wrong sometimes. But I think as a fundamental principle, word of mouth, from the day we started using products as human beings, we spoke to each other about it. Yeah, and we tell each other about, oh, here's what I use, here's what I like, da da da. So I'm saying that's just what influencers are doing. So if you find the right people, you're able to reach your consumer segment, there's no reason why it shouldn't work in my view.
Can I just add a comment?
Please.
So if you hashtag BeSafe, BEESAFE, is a toilet seat sanitizer, become the largest, sort of in that category. Nobody else did this thing before. GSK tried once, Johnson & Johnson tried, it never happened, but we tried it, and we took this as an influencer-driven sort of marketing. And one of the campaigns we did was to get influencers who have a genuine blue tick, million-plus follower, and we got 7 of them in a room and talk about pee. Who talks about pee with influencers like this? So the name of the property called Pee Room Conversation, and talk about how unhygienic toilets are in India or generally. So I think various campaigns, you can club them together, you can do individually, you can let them drive something. So one of the influencers actually went to gynecologists and spoke about it, that how much she worry about this thing, and how many people saw sports in that cause, and the gyna spoke about it, gyna from another group of influencers, which are not very social media savvy. So there's lots of different things we can do actually. We feel that's the best way.
Sure.
The reason I asked the question on TV is, like in Japan, this doesn't work. For some reason, TV in Japan is the god. There's nothing else work for some reason. So maybe different culture. But yeah, we could talk offline as well. How these things work. Yeah.
Is there any good marketing program you can refer so that all the people who are building brand can go and learn? Because a lot of
It's on the job, I feel.
Yeah.
It's on the job.
it would be expensive.
I think most business schools do good marketing programs,
Yeah.
honestly. I would not recommend any specific one, but any of our good business schools in this country run fantastic executive business kind of marketing programs. A lot of, I visit on faculty in many of those.
For big brands.
No, even for entrepreneurs. There are fantastic courses that business school runs for short duration programs. So I would recommend you find out, and and of course talking to other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I'm saying I would suggest to you that just go and knock on people's doors and say, tell me how you did it. Because it's great to learn from others as well. So.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree with you, because for me, I was like listening to other people's experiences. So when I actually launched the brands, I was looking at various people who've done brand building, entrepreneur, whether it was not liquor, something else. Yeah. So I was learning from them, because for me, everyone else's experience is so vital, so that you can see what you can do right, what you can do wrong, and plus knowing your product. I know we talked about product and we went on about it, but for me, that R&D, that 2 years where I identified the right segment to go into, the right pricing structure, which had to be done, and the right look and feel of the product was critical. Without that, we wouldn't be able to move on.
Yeah. But maybe last couple of questions. Oh my, there are lots.
Thank you very much. I am Rakshanda from Bangladesh.
Hi.
And my company name is Penio Lab. So we have a product called Begum that helps women to get online by providing different contents like ICT, lifestyle and anti-harassment content. And our product was in the top 3 list of Unilever Digital Week Challenge as well in Bangladesh. Yeah.
Lovely.
So the customer are mostly from the rural areas, so it's difficult for us to reach the customer. So my question is how to reach that customers, and also we need to make partnership with the different organization and corporate as well. So any suggestion or best way to make partnership with that? And little bit more I want to add that we are generating different content, making content. So in this kind of social impact product, what should be the content making strategy content? Yeah. Thank you.
I think since Unilever has a lot of rural integration, would you like to address this?
Yeah, so maybe the first thing I'll talk about is a property we created in India, which I was involved with, which was called Kan Khajura Station, which is a mobile radio property. So it was the first of its kind, where simply we realized that there were too many consumers in this country who had no access to any kind of entertainment, a lot like Bangladesh. I work in Bangladesh as well with the team. The best way to reach them was the mobile phone had reached them, even if television hadn't. So using voice-enabled messaging, we've created a bunch of content and actually even social content around sanitation and hygiene, and LifeBoy Bangladesh does a lot of it actually, to really reach messaging on various things. So I would say, the other is of course just getting people together in community groups. So one of the ways we do it is just getting together community groups in a village to talk about a subject. The age-old things of getting a few people together and having a chat with a public health worker, with so you can go one by one and then sort of each one pays it forward and goes to another couple of people. So that's really some of the programs. Of course, we run them at a very, very big scale. I think to your point on partnerships, one of the biggest partners that you should look at is also the government. Because I think they have an incredible reach when you go down the population strata as well, and how can you integrate yourself into government programs, especially around the subjects that you're looking at, I think could be really relevant, would be my advice.
Right. Just to add to what Priya said, because we market a lot to farmers as well, we market seeds and we assist them on buying pesticides. I think for us the hub and spoke model has worked very well. So you create small hubs, because obviously interacting with large masses is difficult. It's impossible. And so if each hub goes back to a node and then the node goes back to sort of the regional office and the head office, communication sort of flows upwards, right? Because communication is two ways. And then from a marketing perspective or from a product perspective, it goes down. So I think the hub and spoke from an Indian context works really well, and maybe you can try that in Bangladesh as well.
So in case of a product where the consumer is say a 15-year-old kid, but the purchaser is obviously the mother or the father, and what is return on investment for the mother or father is not fun for the kid, or doesn't give them joy, and what gives joy to the child when you're messaging is probably not nutritious or healthy, or not value enough for the parent. How do you choose with a limited marketing budget where you can't target both of them, and how do you channelize your messaging?
What's the product?
So we sell educational programs, but it's easier for us. But I was thinking, but although even in our case, there are certain parts of the program which the kids find fun, but the parents think that our kids shouldn't be doing that. Whereas the things that the parents find as really good in terms of return on investment, the kids think it's too boring. So it's always a challenge as to what part of the program you communicate to them. Do you go with the parent who's going to pay you, or do you go with the children? And this generation is getting more and more influential in buying decisions.
Can I answer that?
Yes, of course, please.
See, we are in the business of selling electric scooters and electric bikes, okay? Many times the children want the bikes, but the parents would not want to allow them. So what we did is that we did a conscious campaign of explaining the cost benefit, petrol savings, eco-friendliness. Start your child early with electric. If they go with electric, they will not go in for a high-end petrol scooter. Thereby you can avoid accidents. So the puppy sale thing, you'll have to just create that, and you have to, do that. Same here, because sometimes we want the target audience is the children for the cycles, electric cycles, but the parents would not want to buy. The same problem that we have. So it's just, you'll have to whatever she said, I forget, Lisa said, right? You just have to go to the customer yourself and understand what exactly can work and make a small program, and very small budget only.
Yeah.
So only that works better rather than any other formulas that's readily available. I think from my experience, it's more that the entrepreneurial nerve that you just apply in the business, and I don't think you should just feel shy, you're the CEO, you're the manager.
Absolutely.
And all that. Just get on, and then you can just put very, very small programs, and it can work brilliantly.
I absolutely agree with that. That's brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
I have two questions for Ms. Priyanka Mittal. One, KRPL has managed to create a brand in a difficult category. What's a commodity, you have a brand and you have the margins for that. So I want to understand what is it about your brand or company that outsiders don't appreciate or understand that has enabled you to do this, number one. Second, now when you look ahead of what you're trying right now, what has been the most difficult thing to achieve, or what is holding you back, or what is one thing that you're finding it difficult to crack?
So I think there are a lot of levers to our success. I think we did not want to play in the Me Too category, because we knew that just being another Me Too brand, our probability of failure would be greater, because unless you have a competitive advantage, you'd fail. Second is, I think we really took an approach that rice is not just rice, and as you get into the business and you understand the entomology of rice and you really understand rice science, rice is not just rice for us. So I think product innovation is something that we really pushed the pedal early on very quickly. So when there were not a lot of takers for rice innovation, the hybrid varieties and marketing it, we really took a risky bet that paid off. That is one. Second, why are our brands still relevant today? I would say two things. I think we've taken product consistency to a different level. You've got to appreciate that we're an agricultural product, right? So literally, my quality is dependent on what the farmer is growing. But today, I can say with great amount of confidence that India Gate Classic that you were consuming 8 years ago is absolutely going to give you the same cooking experience every bag this year, next year, and next 5 years. Now, I'm not making rice in a plant. It's growing naturally. And there's a lot of science, there's a lot of control that's gone on the back end to be able to give that kind of quality assurance. That's second. Third is, I think localization was a key for us, because this is the era. Well, Priya is here and she probably would disagree with me, but I think the era of mass branding has ended. Localization really is the key, and we understood that very early on. The way a consumer eats basmati in Hyderabad is very different from the way they eat in Lucknow. And the product that you pitch to that customer has to live to that delivery expectation. So I think those are probably broad matrix that made us stand out. And I think rice is really an obsession. You have to come to our plant to really see how we manufacture it. But I'm sure all entrepreneurs, all promoters are equally obsessive. Lastly, to the challenges or the opportunity that we see. So for the last 50 years, we've been a one product company and rice, and that's all we understand. We live and breathe and dream about rice. And now we've made this ambitious decision to venture into the health category. I think initially there were a lot of conversations internally amongst the employees as to why. We're doing so well, margins are good, numbers are good, market share is growing. Why do we really need to look at other categories? And I think the reason we took that bet was we wanted to address consumers of tomorrow, right? So if you look at your food plate, right now I'm addressing only 40%, which is carbohydrates. I need to be addressing the protein, the fats, the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber, and eventually you will see over a period of time that we will get into those categories. I think health segment is really a bet not for the medium term, it's really a bet for the long term. And when you're creating categories, believe me, it really juices you out. And I'm seeing that now because, distributors like high turnover products, they like products to get on the shelf and get off the shelf, and creating categories, especially newer categories which have nascent demand, that jump starting takes time. So keeping the momentum up of employees, of distributors is also a task. But I think we're managing that well.
Super.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ganesh Chandid, a CEO of Neonda Innovation Private Limited. We make Jaipur Belt a kind of assistive device that assists the spine and the back. So, these kind of device being sold at very, very high price outside of India. Like if in India it's outside it's high price. So first question is what should be the pricing point? Can we make a different pricing point for the same product, exactly same product? Second question is, in India we have different customer segment, like some is BOP, industrial workers, some is medical patient and all. So functionality wise, there is no much difference. So how we should place the product? Like should we purposely classify this product into different categories and maybe make two different pricing point, or we should have some common pricing point?
You want to take that?
Yeah, I think, the thing is, I would say to you firstly that the consumer is really smart. Yeah, so that's the first thing I would say to you. So therefore, taking the same product and pricing it differently, I would really worry about. Yeah, so I think if you add features to it which makes it relevant to a medical patient versus an industrial worker versus something else, while the core functionality, like you're saying, might be common. But I would add features if I were you that makes it relevant. So I think, the way it works, and I don't know how the product looks and feels, but, the way it works for somebody who's standing on a shop floor, I'm guessing is going to be very different from the way it works for somebody who's sort of, lying down on the bed and is a medical patient. So, I would therefore customize it for that and then think of pricing it differently. Taking the same product and just sort of saying, well, you can carry it off for some time because you can segregate it for channels, but not for a long time would be my take on it, because it would be really hard. So, there are ways to build features into a core product as well. And consumers would be willing to pay differentially for those features, those value-added features, is my take on it. So I think
that succinctly sums it up.
Yeah, that's it. That is
maybe
right.
the last question,
5 minutes.
and we're going to go with the lady and then...
We have a small company. I own a small company. I'm loud, I think. A small company called Elite Plus Business Services. We do energy, petchem summits, international summits. There's another company that's there which is called Elite. Again, we do about 5 of them. They do about 2 of them, but also related to petchem. And we have broadcast so much that everyone knows us as Elite Plus conferences. But a lot of our customers are now going to their conferences thinking it is ours. And then they say, oh God, they were not it's not your same group or something. Very late in the day, we are 8 years old, to have another logo. We tried attaching Elite Plus Business Services in bracket EPBS, but it's not working, and we may not have the funds to go to advertise some consultant who tells us how to do a total rebrand management or something. So what is the way to go ahead? It's a difficult one, but
yeah, that is a tough one.
Sue them.
Yeah.
I would say, you have a fairly strong case for passing off, for brands that look similar in feel, similar in value proposition, and they're trying to rub off on your reputation. So I would say consult a lawyer. Or even before doing that, I'd say, just sitting across the person and talking it out.
That's too. I mean, it's are there some agencies or someone who guide you how you can? No, we are not like those big MNCs. They say we changed.
I
we can't
would say
do all
go
that.
to an IP lawyer, intellectual property lawyers, and I think you'll get the most.
Okay. Are you both doing the exact same thing? Is my question.
A little different, but yes, the basis is petrochemicals.
Can you innovate a little bit more and make yourself a little more different, maybe?
Yeah,
that's
branding.
the only way. That's how we tackle things.
So if like, sorry, I'm taking everyone's time. The last one, it's Elite Plus Business Services. So if we start EPBS slowly, and then just stick on to EPBS, will that help?
You need to have a completely different kind of, the name, the rebranding. Can you just slightly tweak it so it looks different? You can't?
We use the pluses. It's Elite Plus, so we use the 2 pluses everywhere. Probably.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Fine. Got a difficult case. I'll take it differently.
I think it's a bit specific for us to
exactly.
comment on. But we'd love
probably
to
come to you for mentorship as well.
That we could do, but we'll have to engage a lot more before we can help.
Sure. Thanks you. Thanks.
So listen, I'm just going to wrap it up. But we're going to wrap it up. So thank you so much, guys, for coming in and spending time with us. Thanks so much, and hopefully you've enjoyed it, and we've had a great time.
Thank you so much. Thank
chatting.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.